Hi everyone, I'm just another Bernie tuber, and I have a question for you. Where did you get your political education? I remember foolishly getting into a heated online debate with a conservative middle-aged person about our political beliefs, and I remembered he asked me what I watched on TV to get my political beliefs from. It was weird that he asked that because I get almost none of my political beliefs from TV. In fact, for as long as I can remember, cable news always left me intellectually frustrated because no matter how much I watched, I felt no closer to a conclusive answer of what was right and what was wrong. As a teenager, watching Hannity and Combs was a chance to hear both sides of a debate. But even though I agreed with Alan Combs, Sean Hannity always shouted him down. I just remember thinking, is this a debate or a schoolyard fight? Blowhard jock beating up the wonky nerd. I remember my friend telling me, Alan Combs gets paid to go on there and lose debates. Over the years, networks like Fox News and MSNBC carved out their spaces on the right and left respectively, while CNN tried to play to the middle, which often meant they refused to call a spade and just couched every debate as red versus blue. In no case did I get any closer to finding political truth. Independent media does a better job, but it too is often given to cheerleading its side. The Young Turks, for instance, does a good job of criticizing the Democratic Party when they fail or refuse to fight for their supposed platform, but they are often prone to echo chambering. There was a time when I was a pro-life libertarian. I had my reasons for why I believed what I believed, and I knew of TYT. But I refused for some time to watch their videos because of the way they flippantly regarded Christians as morons. Whatever case they had to make would be a lost cause because I'd never see it. Exploring why someone might follow conservative ideology might go a long way towards convincing a conservative to switch political philosophies, because they've been able to see the strength of the progressive argument and the conservative argument was adequately answered, while their intelligence was still respected. What turned me around from being a libertarian to being a progressive? Well, it was a gradual change that started when Ron Paul and those who followed him couldn't adequately answer what would happen to someone who didn't have health care but needed to go to the hospital. His answers had always been that the market would right itself and the most ethical company would win out because the people chose it with their dollars. For some arguments, the free market and no government intervention made sense, given the framing of the question, but I wasn't satisfied. Then my professor showed me a chart of the federal budget and the rapidly growing share that healthcare costs were taking up. The Affordable Care Act was slowing down the growth of the healthcare costs, bringing it back under control. To me at the time, it actually sounded fiscally conservative, and no one had ever told me that before. I flipped. A few years later, I began to see Bernie Sanders' posts on my Facebook timeline, and his words resonated with me, and the rest is history. But that didn't give me my true political education. My true political education came from books. Here are a few that I highly recommend. By the way, all of these are also available as audiobooks. I personally don't have much time or patience for Kindle or paperbacks. Number 1, The Dictator's Handbook. It's a great book about realpolitik. It examines the incentive structures of government systems. There's a video that gives you a great introduction to the idea of how governments truly work, whether in dictatorships or democracies. It's called Rules for Rulers by C.G.P. Gray. All links will be in the description. Number 2, Why Nations Fail. This book describes how political decisions at key junctures in a country's history can shape the nation for generations to come. While some schools of thought, such as Peter Zion, offer compelling theories about national success and failure based on geography and demographics, I take that theory with a grain of salt because of the role technology plays in overcoming geographic barriers. Number 3, The Origin of Political Order. I'll admit I didn't finish this book. If you can, Godspeed. Number 4, Political Order and Political Decay. This is the sequel to the book I didn't read. This one is far easier to digest and talks about the state's ability to bend when necessary and what happens when the bureaucracy doesn't bend. And for the record, the author does not have a good opinion of America's political system at the moment, describing it as a vetocracy, as in like veto, where almost nothing can get done because it always gets challenged in the courts or at the polls. Number 5, American Nations. This book talks about the differing cultures within the United States that can explain why some parts of the country feel foreign while other parts feel familiar. They can also explain why some parts of the country may always vote a certain way while other parts vote the exact opposite way, for instance, the Deep South and New England. Number 6, When Helping Hurts. This is a book about poverty alleviation written from a Christian perspective. Throwing money at a problem is often not the answer. Because human beings are able to make decisions, we cannot just assume that giving someone more money will make all their problems go away. And because of our 4 core relationships with God, others, self, and the rest of creation, we are all poor in more ways than one. Number 7, It's Time to Fight Dirty. This is a great book about how to cement democratic majorities and win election after election for years to come. I plan to make a video with this book in mind coming up soon. But before I continue, no, splitting California up into several states to get more senators is a terrible idea. California, like America, isn't just a place, it's an idea. That was one of the ideas that the author had in mind. Number 8, Identity. Francis Fukuyama does a great job of pinning down why our politics has to do a better job of affirming people's dignity. A female CEO who gets paid less than her male counterparts will never starve. But the affirmation that comes with getting the same pay as a man gives the woman a sense of dignity and equality. Failure to affirm someone's identity can fracture society if the group is big enough. There's a few more books I could list, all of which are in the description, but I also wanted to give a shout out to the YouTube channels I've learned from. Number 1, TYT. Some progressives don't like TYT. I'm cool with them. Number 2, Tim Black TV, an African-American comedian with great takes on political news, Johnson. Number 3, Rational National. Great short-form content. I love his efficiency. Very little waste of time. Number 4, The Humanist Report. Mike does a great job also with short-form content. I also love his outros with the Trump impressionist. Number 5, you may not have heard of him, Beau of the Fifth Column. He offers a great perspective I wouldn't have thought about being a city boy myself. I enjoy his insight into rural life and how they see the world, even though he's left-leaning as well. Number 6, Roland Martin Unfiltered. A bit too establishment for me, but I like him nonetheless. Number 7, Democracy at Work. I try to check out the unapologetic socialist Richard Wolff whenever I can. He's given me some ideas on how to start my company with socialist principles that make life better for everyone at the company. Number 8, Caspian Report. InstaClick. Whenever this Azerbaijani uploads a video about geopolitics, I'm there. I probably should have listed him first. I also enjoy his accent and his perspective on world history and events. Number 9, The Hill. Crystal's great and I respect Sagar. Though in all honesty, I feel like Sagar might be the Alan Combs of Rising. I want him to have as much a voice in the show as Crystal so he can bring in more conservatives. I like real conversations and debates. And last one, number 10, Let's Talk Elections. This channel keeps me up on the polling and games out what might happen in the elections. So those are my resources that helped shape my political worldview. I appreciate your time watching this, and I hope that if you learned something from this, please consider liking and subscribing and sharing this video as I continue to ramp up production for this channel. But more than anything, don't just sit on this knowledge. Go do something with it.